These poems are randomly chosen from among my favorites in a loose leaf book that's this thick. This one is a memory of growing up in the West End of Duluth, a couple blocks from the Ore Docks. And it's also a memory of the people who ran the grocery that we shopped at, the Garen family. The name of the poem is Garens Delivered. Abe, 2 fingers missing on his left hand, stood behind the meat counter, bending to retrieve the plumpest chicken to please my beautiful mama, who also requested 1 dozen strictly fresh eggs. Jaime, the older brother, manned the aisles, kept the shelves stocked with macaroni and canned peas, Arco coffee, and other imperishables. Handsome Sid, a college student, came in on Saturdays. Sid was the family's pride and joy, destined for big things, a dependable helper on the store's busiest day of the week. Lil was not a Garen. I never knew her last name. She was simply Lil. Holding forth behind the far counter, charge account books lined up alphabetically along the wall behind her. Stocky and strawberry blonde, a fierce lioness guarding the accounts receivable, although only the well-schooled Sid would call them by that term. Everyone understood that those books held the secret to the store's survival from month to month and year to year. Charge it, was what we learned to say, before the spaghetti and the onions and the hamburger buns and the strictly fresh eggs went into paper bags, along with a couple of packs of Camels for Daddy, only if they trusted you not to smoke them yourself. In the winters, when the ore trains weren't clattering along the docks, my father was laid off, collecting rocking chair money from the union that bargained for good wages that he earned from March to November, the season when 100-car ore trains rolled down from the Iron Range and dumped their ore into Lakers bound for Pittsburgh and Cleveland. We got by on the rocking chair, but just barely. Sometime around mid-March, Daddy gave Mama a lot of cash, maybe as much as $70. And she went straight to Garens to settle up. She loved getting a receipt that showed a balance of 0, 0, 0, 0. And we loved getting our choice of 2 free candy bars. Snickers was my favorite. Jack liked Hershey with almonds. The times when she couldn't get to the store, or when we needed too much for a kid to carry, Mama would call in the order, and a boy named Buddy, or Junior, would pull up in the paneled truck and haul a box to the back door. 2 knocks, and then he'd come in. Garens! The groceries were delivered, no tip required. He was glad to have the job. In 2018, Whole Foods and Cub announced that they were now willing to promote that service for a substantial order and a little additional fee. A mom with a baby or an old lady like me might appreciate the convenience. Still, it's not the same as Garens. They carried us all winter long, and they carried the groceries into the kitchen. Garens really delivered. You can still see the sign on the side of the building where that store was. So it just tricks my heart every time I see it. Every now and then, my imagination is taken over by a guy named Fred. One night, when Stan and I went out to a blues club with some neighborhood pals, Fred must have been right there with us, taking it all in. The next time I sat down to write, Fred was right there. The poem is called Seeking the Blues. The next-door neighbor, the guy whose snow always needs shoveling, and who never seems to notice the paint peeling off his windowsills, says he loves New Orleans blues and knows a place with no cover, if you get there before 6, cheap drinks, a band on the stage, a big dance floor, and babes, plenty of them. Does Fred want to go? Now Fred's behind the wheel of his venerable Park Avenue, maneuvering through a battlefield of expensive pickups, tired SUVs. He hasn't seen so many cars in a parking lot since Dylan played the Civic Center. Finds the last spot, the neighbor nattering in the passenger seat. "Ready, buddy?" Art the neighbor asks. It's not the ER or the mortuary. Why the hell shouldn't he be ready? Art's got himself duded up for this outing. A western shirt, faded jeans, stomach rolling over the belt, and highly polished cowboy boots. Cowboy boots. Standing in line to pay the cover, they're too late for the free admission. Fred puts some distance between him and Art. The place is part bar, part cheesy fantasy of an adolescent boy grown old, huge with lots of little staircases. And they lead up to tucked away rooms with seductive furniture and soft invitations. In the middle of it all, big noise from enormous speakers, half a dozen guys with throwing their stringy hair around, standing at mics, oozing the blues. Fred needs a drink, whiskey on ice, and pays the tariff. The booze is not cheap. But looking over the crowd, he has to acknowledge that Art was right about one thing. There are lots of babes. Not too young, not too old, and some of them have pretty good moves as they groove their way around the dance floor. An old Otis Redding tune starts playing in his mind. The lyric, something about loving you too long and not wanting to stop, winding its way around his breath, leaving him short-winded. But Art's back, his question lost in the band's reverb, as he gestures to a pair of female companions. Heading for the dance floor with Art's friend, whose shiny white hair is pulled into a ponytail, Fred puts a guiding hand on Catherine's upper back, a practice gesture, instinctive after being married for so long, a protective gesture that morphed into full-blown guardian angel mode in the 5 years he couldn't keep his wife alive. She has a lovely smile, this Catherine, Fred thinks, as he gathers her into his arms for a slow dance around the jam-packed floor. A skinny white guy pretends to be Sam Cooke, and the band does its best to help him out. Catherine, Catherine, Catherine. She whispers her name, getting the feel of it on his tongue. Sam on stage delivers the song's last sad notes. The dance has ended. Come here much? No shame using the hoary old pickup line. You got a cell or an email, Fred adds, to prove he lives in the 21st century. Just one more. And this one was occasioned by, I think, a story I heard on the radio about some kind of a poetry project that was going on in Afghanistan, about how you would call in your poem. And I took off from there. The narrator is an Afghan girl. She's 15 years old. She desperately wants to tell someone her dreams. And against all odds, she is brave and hopeful. And the poem is called Calling the Secret Number, Telling My Poem. My father carries his mobile phone on his body all the time. My brother has his own, but I wouldn't dare ask. The phone at school was the best chance. I would stay late and help the teacher. I would make my call. The telephone room is locked most of the time. The teachers fear the bad men will come and break the furniture. The teachers worry that the books and papers will be torn to shreds. I'll admit I worry too. The boys from the other school, their school, might come. Who knows what they would do? Watch the school while I run to the market, my teacher says. I watch her go, then hurry to the little room. It's open. Thank Allah. The phone feels heavy, important in my hand. The string of numbers goes on and on. When I hear the ringing, I'm a little afraid. A soft, recorded voice comes on. Welcome to the poetry place. Do you have a poem you want to tell? Relax and just say it slowly. I want to hear every word. Poems are precious things. We'll take good care of yours until the time comes when you can tell it to everyone. Not finished yet. But thank you. I'll give you the last stanza. Taking a deep breath, I say the name, the sparkling eyes of my love. And I tell the poem about his beautiful eyes and about how my heart pounds when I see him and how I will never be able to speak to him because my teacher takes the phone from my hand, puts it back in its cradle. She shakes her head sadly. Go now. Go home to your new husband. Thank you all.